everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to get started in just a minute here. All right, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple seconds. If everyone wants to kind of filter over here, get a spot where you can. And we're going to start as soon as we're ready. All right. One more second. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Wittich. I am an LGBTQ plus news reporter for Black Club Chicago. Thank you all so much for being out here today. So today we're celebrating the launch of Pidgeon Pagonis' book. I'm going to introduce them first, or no, I'm going to introduce them later, but first I have a couple housekeeping things. So to start, thank everyone so much for coming out here. This is the launch of the Black Club Book Club and the launch of Pidgeon's book. So we got a couple things to celebrate here. Yeah. The Black Club Book Club, it's going to be a semi-regular thing where we feature local artists and hopefully have more events like this. So we're very excited to kick it off today with such a special memoir by Pidgeon Pagonis. As I said, my name is Jake Wittich. I've worked for Black Club for about 3 years. If you want to subscribe to Black Club, if you're not already, check out Lizzie at the merch table. She has a QR code where you can get a free month subscription. Also there, you can buy Nobody Needs to Know, which is Pidgeon's new book. Came out today. And there's a lot of other cool swag there, so check it out. We've got stickers, pins, all kinds of things. A few other things. This, in addition to being part of Black Club Book Club, it's part of Proud City, which is the new LGBTQ news vertical we recently launched. It's basically a hub for all of our queer news stories. If you'd like to support it, we also have a QR code at that table where you can sign up for our email list to receive that newsletter throughout the year. A big thank you to the Honeycomb Network for having us. This is a beautiful space. And we are also using this event to benefit Interconnect, which is a support group for intersex folks. So Jamie hung up QR codes throughout the place. I think it's also on Black Club's website. I'll get you a link later if you need one. But please check out Interconnect. It's a support group for intersex folks, a really good cause, and make a donation. So with that, I'm going to introduce India Moore, who is a good friend of Pidgeon's. You may know them from Pose. And they're going to lead us in just a grounding exercise so we can get centered. So with that, yeah, can we prop the door open, please? Thank you. Awesome. We'll give a warm round of applause to India.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out and supporting Pidgeon. So yeah, I'm just gonna support just a breathing moment and sort of closure and opening for Pidgeon to begin. And you don't have to participate if you don't want to. You don't have to do anything. And if there's anybody who objects to me doing it, I'm very happy to step aside. So, you know, if there is anyone who objects, okay, I'll be happy to step aside. Okay. So, yeah, just plant your feet on the ground and, you know, center yourself in a way that feels comfortable for you and your body and your seat. So I was thinking a lot about what this centering breathing exercise was going to be, and I thought it would be beautiful for it to be centered in self-love and just love in general, and care and sweetness. So just start by taking a deep breath in. You can close your eyes if you want. You don't have to. Just take a deep breath in through your nostrils and let it out through your mouth, through your nostrils, however you want. Now the next time you take a deep breath, imagine you drawing up energy from the earth and going up through your feet, through your body, up, out through your crown, your head, out into the universe, and curving back underneath the earth and going into you. Kind of like the magnetic shield around the planet. So take another deep breath, drawing up that energy through your body, going outward into the universe and back into the earth filter, and back into you again. And another, one more time. And another one more time. And with this breath, if there's any thought or anything that is circulating, you can choose to let it go if you want, or you can just acknowledge it and let it take change or move with your breath. Inward and out. That energy going back into the earth and into you. So now envision, it could be anything. Something like whether the rain, the sun, a breeze that makes you feel cared for and loved, happy and safe. It could be a person, it could be any species, it could be a fur baby or animal friend that you have. Think of them, who makes you feel cared for and safe and loved. And hold that feeling for a moment. And take another deep breath, expanding that feeling inside of you. And every breath that you take, it grows and grows. And you can send some of it back to that person or thing or place with gratitude. Take another deep breath. And out, sending some of that love and care and energy of safety back. And take one more breath again. Expanding that energy and taking it inside of yourself. That love, that care, the sense of safety. Take it inside of you and feel that inside of yourself. In your own body. You can open your eyes when you're ready. And I guess after a moment, we can move forward.
All right, everyone feeling good? Thank you, India. I don't know about you all, but I needed that. I am not familiar with public speaking that much. That's why I'm a writer. But that definitely grounded me. One more thing I realized I forgot is we do have seats, but obviously this is standing room as well. Feel free to fill that back area if you need to. And if anyone does need a seat, contact anyone from back there. Denise will help, and we can politely ask anyone if they're willing to give up their seat. So thank you so much. Maybe we might have extras as well, I'm not sure. But thank you so much. And with that, I'm gonna say a little bit about Pidgeon. So Pidgeon is a lifelong Chicagoan, author, and intersex activist. Through their work, they founded the Intersex Justice Project, which mounted a very successful campaign aiming to get Lurie Children's Hospital to be the first in the world, I believe, right? The first in the world to end the practice of giving intersex babies unnecessary cosmetic surgeries that they can't consent to. Through their work, let's applause for that. So, through their work, Pidgeon has worked to empower intersex youth. They worked for a group called Interact. They also launched an intersex YouTube channel and created their own non-binary clothing line, Too Cute to Be Binary. T-shirts over there. So I am so honored to introduce you to Pidgeon, who shares their experiences growing up as an intersex person in their new memoir out today. Books over there, signed books. And Pidgeon will be signing some at that table as well after this speech, or talk. So with that, let's give a big round of applause and welcome Pidgeon to the floor. Thank you, everyone. So Pidgeon is here. We're gonna start, and they are going to read some of their book to everyone. And then I'm gonna ask them some questions, and we'll open it up to audience Q&A as well if we have time, which I'll make sure we do. So with that, I'll let Pidgeon take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna just get into it. I actually feel really awkward reading from my book for some reason. But this will be like the only time I do this probably. Maybe, I'm not doing a book tour basically. So this is like a one and done. And I just appreciate you so much for being here. The reason I'm not doing a book tour is because it's really hard to read this book at all, let alone out loud. So the parts I'm reading today are going to be some of the easier parts to read, but I still want to give you like an understanding. Matt knows what I'm talking about. Like, I can see. I'm gonna still try to give you a gist of my story, but I'm not gonna get into like the traumatic, the most traumatic parts of it. But yeah. So I also have this like feeling that like me reading is boring to people. So if you guys want to like express your engagement at any point in any way, like please feel free, like give me eyes, give me nods, give me snap, whatever you want, like all that, because that'll keep me like not sweating as much. Okay. You do? Oh, me too. Actually, I really love that as well. You have a really engaging voice. Oh, thank you. That's my guy right there. This man has kept me fed this summer, like the best carne asada I've ever had in my life. All right, and that's my favorite food. Okay, so this is introduction, the first page. How do you write about the first time you ruptured? How do you describe what it felt like when flares began escaping from the fissures? How do I tell you what it was like to witness the onset of my explosion at the age of 18? As my core began to collapse, I stood still in my college dorm room, staring hard into a mirror. My reflection was blurred by outbursts of fiery tears. I used the palm of my hand to pull my hair back, and a fresh tear sailed down the ridge of my cheekbone like a tiny, icy hot comet. I scanned my features with the acuity of an astronomer, searching for my Polaris amid the mesmeric chaos. A neurometeor shower lit up the valleys of my brain as I processed all the things I had, until that moment, avoided realizing. My eyes traced my inky, unruly eyebrows, skimmed down the bridge of my father's Hellenic nose, and finally landed on the soft patches of jet black strands of fur above my lip. I'd been at war with that mustache since 5th grade, when my mother finally let me use her hair removal cream. It smelled so bad. The blurry telescope I was using to survey the landscape
Every facial feature and all the puzzling childhood moments slowly clicked into focus. A glimpse of something resembling the truth materialized. They lied to me, I said under my breath. They all lied to me. That's the introduction. Thank you. Okay, so the next part, I'm in 5th grade. I had just left Smizer. Where's my teacher? There's Layla. That's my 4th grade teacher, y'all, right
Hi,
there.
teacher.
That's Miss Rumbly. So I had just left 4th grade and went to 5th grade at a new school. So I left Smizer, which is in Dunning? Or what neighborhood would that be? Dunning, Northwest side. And then I moved to Elmwood Park. Does anyone know where Elmwood Park is? Yeah, it's like over there. Harlem and right over there somewhere. Okay, so I move over there and I meet, and I'm all nervous because it's like a new school. And I'm like, oh my God, no one's gonna like me, da 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 da. But I see this girl there and she's talking about a softball team. So this is like into that conversation. So this is the girl talking, her name's Lisa. My dad's friend from work is starting up a new softball team for girls, and tryouts are next week, she said. He told me to invite my friends. I was thrilled. I got the details from Lisa and was soon after officially a Chicago Alley Cat. Softball became my life. I was never happier than when by the way, this is the longest passage I'm gonna read. Okay. Softball became my life. I was never happier than when I was out there under the sun, taking signs from my new coach and digging my rubber spikes into the diamond's dirt. My coach's name was Tommy Thompson, but we just called him Coach Thompson, or Coach. He was an Irish Catholic ironworker with a lightning patch of silver in his hair and matching silver flecks in his otherwise lake blue eyes. He seemed to subsist only on a diet of gas station coffee and sunflower seeds. I later found out other stuff, but I can't talk about that. My dad would often comment that my coach was a maniac, but he'd always say it with a grin. He did think my coach was extreme, as did almost everyone else who ever met him, but he was more or less fond of him. I was fond of him too. With my dad not around as much after the divorce, I gravitated toward my new coach. I always tried my best to impress him so that I could hear him say those coveted golden words. Good job, Pagonis. Softball was a vehicle for approval from my coach and from my parents whenever they could get off work to make it to the games. But Coach Thompson, he was always there, every practice and every game. He was a constant in my life, and I was drawn to him the way a moon is drawn to the gravity of a nearby planet. I was jealous of his daughter, Casey, because I wished for a dad like Coach, one who was so involved in softball and her life. To my knowledge, our ragtag team was Chicago's first ever 12 and under traveling girls fast pitch softball team. And it was full of girls who love sports just like me. Actually, we spent all winter playing with the wrong size ball. So when we got to our first game, it was the Elk Grove Heat we played, and their ball came on our side because someone threw it on accident, to our side. And I picked it up and threw it, and I was like, oh my God, this ball feels different. And then we found out that day we had practiced with the wrong ball all winter. And we lost every single game that season. But we got better. We won like 2 the next season. Okay, so I always, I said that. Okay, to my knowledge, blah, 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 it was full of girls just like me. It felt like chicken soup for my soul. Anyone remember that book? Yeah. To be part of that team, going to practice. Ooh, my softball teammate is here too. Hey, Becky. I love softball. I just played 3 games on Sunday, and I literally am in pain to sit here. Okay. So, and it was full of girls who loved the chicken soup for my soul, be part of the team. Going to practice year-round, having pizza parties and sleepovers, it was an instant crew. And I was good at it, too. Softball, unlike being girly, came naturally to me. During the spring of 1997, I was 11, and we were playing our biggest rivals. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, the count was 3-2. And there I was, standing on third, trying my hardest not to do the I gotta go dance, while Coach Thompson shouted his head off. "I smell blood," he roared, which in Tommy Thompson speak meant he wanted us to pounce and finish off our wounded opponents. I had been holding my pee for most of the game. It was beginning to feel excruciating. I thought I was going to burst. "Pagonis, get ready to hustle," Coach Thompson muttered through gritted, coffee-stained teeth without ever taking his piercing blue eyes off of our batter, to whom he was giving signs. There was no team in the state, or in the country for that matter, that got him more riled up than our arch enemies, the Oak Park motherfucking Windmills. It was a personal vendetta for our coach. Their wealthy suburban organization had effectively banned him from being around their Ivy League-bound daughters. Without that rejection, our scrappy Alley Cats team would have never gotten started. I would have never found the place where I belonged. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched his elaborate hand gestures, the secret signs that he taught us over the winter while practicing night after night in St. Ferd's gym on the city's northwest side. He wanted our batter to smack the ball out of the park so I could score and win the game. "If she pops it up, as soon as they catch it, I want you running home like a hobo after a ham sandwich." This is literally what he would say to us. He whispered so only I could hear after he finished giving her his signs. I was fast, one of the quickest on the team, and Coach knew it. I had become addicted to the feeling I got whenever Coach was proud of me, and I could still hear his gruff voice teaching me to feel grounders and catch with 2 hands. "2 hands, Pagonis, let's go," he would say, his voice bouncing off the walls of the gymnasium. "It takes 10,000 repetitions before it becomes second nature, ladies." Softball, we have that in common too. Okay. Softball practice was an escape. It was the place where we could leave our problems behind. In fact, that's exactly what Coach would tell us to do. "Leave all your problems at home," he'd shout whenever it looked like one of us was losing focus. "This is the one place where all you have to think about is playing ball. How lucky you all are." He didn't make it to the major leagues, so he lived out his life through us, which was a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. Whenever he was teaching us new mechanics, new skills needed for the game, he'd repeat another of his favorite phrases: "Fake it till you make it." That phrase always made me feel kind of weird, partly because I grew up learning that faking things, like lying, was bad, and partly because softball was one of the only places where I didn't have to pretend. I'm not done. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the engagement. It was the only space where I felt accepted. Yes, put your chest into those ums. Where all the parts of myself that weren't ladylike were celebrated. It's where I could literally hawk a loogie and not get chastised by my grandma. I could just be me. And softball had become tied to my future dreams. With softball, if I hustled and worked hard enough, then maybe I could get a scholarship to a university, an education, and have a chance at controlling my own destiny. Our home field was behind Steinman's High School. Shout out Steinman's, anyone? Yeah. Bobby, my stepdad went to Steinman's. Raise your hand, Bobby. There you go. Bobby's in the book too. Our home field was behind Bobby's high school, the same school my parents had attended, about 10 minutes from Grandma and Grandpa's place on Austin Avenue. On that August day, the sky was pink and blue and swirled with white, gauzy clouds. Oak trees cast shadows on the patchy grass, and the sun blinded the pitcher as she whipped in a curveball for the final out. "Strike 3, the ump bellowed. Thank God, I thought. Now I could finally pee. I had to switch hands. And as soon as we were done slapping hands with the other team, working up our best sportsmanship smiles, good game, I sprinted inside the school building for the closest toilet. I rushed inside the metal stall, etched with that pointy S that everyone, including me, was obsessed with drawing alongside the names of couples on top of the words forever, spelled with number 4, EVA. I pulled down my navy shorts and peeled off my sweaty padded sliding shorts like veneer on thigh skin. Then, finally free, I squatted above the toilet to finally let out the pee I'd been holding in. My legs were exhausted, and after what felt like an eternity, waiting for every drop to drip out, I pulled my skin-tight sliding shorts back up and began the whole process in reverse. But just as I was about to open the stall door, I felt a warm, wet sensation spread between my legs into my underwear and then the stretchy fabric of my sliding shorts. It was pretty warm that day, and we had just played a doubleheader, so I wanted to believe it was sweat. I'm not crying, my eye itches. But this happened before, more than a few times. I whined as I stepped back toward the toilet and began peeling off the layers again. I blotted my underwear and sliding shorts with another wad of toilet paper, applying pressure to soak up what I could, then tossing the dirty tissue in the toilet. When I was dry as I could manage, I washed my hands and dried them with the hand dryer that blew air out about as well as someone with late-stage emphysema. Etched in the white metal casing with what appeared to be a house key were the words, Frankie plus Bubbles, forever. I wondered if I would ever have forever with anyone. But now wasn't the time for all that. I shook off the remaining drops of water and then pressed my hands into the fabric of my jersey. I had to tell someone about my pee problem. My teammate Lisa's dad dropped me back off at home. When I got inside, Mom was down the hall in the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. She had a marble in one hand and a pair of shiny chrome cutting shears in her other. Who else had a mom that had a marble in their hand? Ever? Only 2 people? Oh yeah, I know y'all. Marlboro Red cigarette, or just some cigarette. Who else had a mom with a cigarette in their hand ever? Yeah. I don't know why I said yeah, I hated it. but solidarity. So yeah, she had a marble in one hand and a pair of shiny chrome cutting shears in her other. Mom's eyes were locked on her reflection as she snipped away at her bangs. Clumps of coarse auburn hair fell like feathers into the porcelain sink. Luther Vandross blared on in the background. Mom, I said, half hoping she wouldn't hear me. Sarah's here. Cadence is here. Mom? Huh, hun? She asked, never breaking her concentration. I didn't like talking about my vagina. I was ashamed to even say the word. After all, I was a child of God who attended Sunday school at an old-school Greek Albanian Christian Orthodox church every week. My vagina wasn't exactly part of normal dinner table conversation. Mom was spritzing herself with a bottle of Dolce & Gabbana perfume, her signature smell. The sharp sting of perfume hit my nostrils, and I found it hard to breathe. I have a very sensitive nose. I fixed my gaze on the square pink floor tiles and began. Come hold the mirror up so I can do the back, she instructed me. I picked up the hand mirror from the bathroom countertop and held it behind her head, just to the side, so she could trim the tendrils that fell on the back of her neck. This morning, I said, I peed and, pee came out. She crooked her eyebrow up at me in the mirror as if to say, and? Then she adjusted her towel over her D cups. Huh? Redness flushed my cheeks. My eyes tilted up. Sometimes, I said, after I stand up when I'm done peeing, a little bit of extra pee dribbles out into my underwear, and it's annoying. What I meant was that it was embarrassing. But at some point, I had gotten the idea that my life would somehow be better if I didn't show signs of weakness. Mom's unimpressed stare turned to a look of fleeting panicked alarm before she set her shiny shears down on the pink counter and said confidently, Don't worry about it, hon. I'll call the doctor tomorrow on my lunch break. That's the end of that one. Okay, this one's 1 page. That was the longest one, like I said. Okay, now I'm in college. I'm at DePaul University, where I met these lovely people, doctors and professors Francesca Royster, Anne Russo, Beth Catlett, Heather Flett. Is anyone else from DePaul here that I went to school with? Yes, the intern from Black Club.
Go,
Anybody
Jackie.
else? Coda does? Oh, Denise's baby goes to DePaul. Denise, everyone runs this space. Denise is in the mint green champion shirt, hoodie. And before I continue, I just want you all to know that, is it okay that I share about what you shared on Instagram? So their landlord has doubled their rent, like maybe twice now, or at least a lot of times. So that's another reason we're doing this here, is to support this space, this wonderful space in Humboldt Park. And Denise has been part of the community for as long as I've been around, like since I've been knowing anybody. So Denise does so much, and this space is so beautiful. So if y'all can support in any way, you can go to their Instagram, you can donate there. I'm sure you could just throw money at Denise, like just throw it there. So yeah, please support this space, and shout out to Black Club for pairing. Jen Sabella, thank you for coming to my rescue. I didn't have an event planned till like 2 minutes ago, and Jen was DMing me, like letting me know she bought the book and asked me about a launch event, and I said, I don't have anything planned, and Jen came to the rescue with her beautiful, wonderful, amazing Black Club team, and support Black Club as well. They are a nonprofit, just like this space. You guys are a nonprofit too, right? Yeah, everyone's a nonprofit. And they subsist on donations and also funding. So support Black Club, sign up for their newsletter, read their website, their newspaper, their Instagram, everything. They're the best. And like Jake said, we're also raising money tonight. So 10% of everything that I raise from selling books and selling T-shirts and pins goes to the only intersex support group in the entire country called Interconnect. If you guys are intersex yourselves or know somebody that needs a support group, the website is interconnect.support. Let them know about that. Also, there are QR codes, like you said, everywhere. You can donate to them. I'm trying to raise them some money tonight because they're literally so out of money that next year they can't even have an in-person support group meeting for the first time in as long as I know. The first time I went was like 15 years ago, and it's in the book. I'm not going to read about it tonight. But they're an amazing group that's the only support group for intersex people, online and in person. So thank you for helping us raise money for them tonight. So now I'm in college at DePaul University. I'm in a class called Psychology of Women 400. And I didn't know what those numbers meant, so it was like an upper level class, and I was a freshman. And they were teaching us about intersex, and I didn't know what intersex was. I'd never heard of the term. And I'm sitting in class kind of just being like, what's this about? So I'm in class, and there's a slide on the screen, and it listed other facts about people with AIS, facts that curiously seem to describe me. AIS stands for androgen insensitivity syndrome. It's an intersex variation. So the slide said, can't have children, and I'm sitting there like, check. Unable to have a period, I'm like, check. These were the two things I had known about myself since I was 5 years old. But I had been told that I couldn't have a period or children because I was born with cancer in my ovaries, not because I had something called AIS. I was told the doctors had performed a dangerous ovary removal surgery on me before I was a year old to save my life. I was told the surgery they performed on me at 10 was to keep my bladder functioning properly, and the pee problem. And the little add-on vaginal enlargement procedure was nothing special, just something to make me more comfortable once I was married. They said it was the only way I could have sex with my future husband. Then my professor clicked to a new slide. Women with AIS have XY chromosomes, it said. Wait a minute, I thought. XY is the chromosome makeup for boys. That didn't make any sense because I was a girl. My birth certificate said so. I was still in a relationship with my boyfriend, coming up on 5 years. I had played for a traveling girls softball team and had graduated from an all-girls Catholic high school. If I had XY chromosomes, there's no way that Catholic nuns would have let me in. But there were those two letters staring back at me, XY. I felt my chest begin to tighten. It seemed like I was breathing through a pinched straw, like I was the only one in the classroom, as everyone else faded away. I was in one of those weird-ass surrealist Dali paintings where the clocks start to do whatever they're doing. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't scream. It was all a lie. Everybody had been lying to me my entire life. So that's that part. Thank you. How are you all doing? You okay? Okay, I'm good. Okay, only got like 4 more pages left. Oh wait, I need water. Thank you, India. Please give it up for India. I asked them last minute if they could do that opening exercise, and they flew from New York here last night to do that with me and for us. So thank you so much. I love you. I love you so much. And it was a surprise, except I had known about the surprise, but I couldn't tell them I knew about the surprise. So the only surprise was actually India the whole time. But they thought they were surprising me, so it was really cute. But I needed to know if they were coming, so thank God other people told me. Okay. As I looked into the mirror, so at this part of the book, I had just gotten my medical records for the first time. I'm at DePaul. I had just found out that stuff in the class. I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and then I had, let me see, did I get my medical records? I think so. No, I didn't. But I had just talked to my mom, and I found out that I had androgen insensitivity syndrome. That's what happened, which I still at this point didn't realize was an intersex variation. I just thought, I have XY chromosomes. This means I'm a boy. Okay. As I looked into the mirror, my reflection was blurred by the tears that burned my eyes. I studied my features and felt total shock over all the things I hadn't really acknowledged or wasn't able to realize before that moment. Things were seemingly becoming clearer. It was like I was finally able to see one of those magic eye optical illusions, evidence hidden in plain sight. Do you know what those are? You'd have to cross your eyes at them and then it become like 3D. This is what we did for fun in the 90s. Okay, so evidence hidden in plain sight. But evidence of what? A giant human question mark stared back at me. It had breasts, arched eyebrows, wavy chestnut hair, fake diamond earrings, a teal hoodie, high-set cheekbones, no beard, but definitely a Frida mustache. I'm a guy? I'm a fucking guy? I can't believe this. No. This cannot be. No. I cannot believe they've been lying to me since I was 5. Who lies to their kid like that? How is this really my life? Then I started thinking about all the doctor's visits, my pee problem, the bladder surgery, we're just gonna make your vagina a little bit bigger, the doctor's instructions to keep my hormones and lack of a period private. Nobody needs to know. All the interns and doctors spreading my legs to view my privates. The way sex with Mike just always seemed not quite right. And then there was that other thing. The thing about myself I was most ashamed of. Oh God. The fact that ever since I had started masturbating, my natural inclination was to lie down on my chest and hump a pillow, like a boy. I had never told a single soul about it, and I carried so much shame. But I couldn't dwell on my pillow humping crisis for too long because another concern popped into my head. A queasy weight plopped down at the bottom of my stomach. What about Mikey? How was I going to tell my boyfriend that I was a guy? Okay, so that's the end of that piece. I thought you said something. Okay. This is where I meet the first intersex person in my life, named Linnell Stephanie Long, who was supposed to be here but couldn't be here because they had to work last minute. They're a paramedic, and they've been a paramedic during the whole pandemic. So give it up for Linnell. They might be watching on the live stream, and they're a very important person to me because they were part of a speakers bureau for an organization called the Intersex Society of North America back then. And they were a public speaker just like I am. And they went around to schools. They came to DePaul and spoke at my class. And that's how I met them. Afterwards, my teacher set up a moment for us to go get pizza together after. So I'm at this restaurant and at DePaul, on DePaul's campus. And I had just trailed them really far behind because I didn't want no one to figure out that I was intersex too. Because I was still very ashamed. So Linnell asked me, like, how'd you like it and whatever. And they said they saw me crying, and I said, oh, yeah, it was great. I liked it. You're really funny. It was just, a lot. And then she said, oh, no. I let out another deep exhale. And now Linnell says, Jessica, which is my teacher, Jessica tells me you have AIS too, and that the hospital you went to is nearby. Yeah, I do, I said, feeling the weight of the words in my mouth. I just found out in her class a few weeks ago. And what hospital did you go to? Children's, right over there, I said, pointing with my eyebrows. Children's Memorial? She asked. Yup. Have you gotten your medical records yet? She asked. No, I replied. You gotta try and get them, especially since it's right across the street. You can literally walk there. Not many intersex people have been able to retrieve their records. Everyone's seemed to have, quote unquote, burned in a fire, she said, while making air quotes. When you go, just tell them you want a copy and don't let your doctors know you're requesting them. It'll cost money that way, but it's better to pay for them so your doctors don't have a chance to cover anything up. I listened intently to Linnell's instructions. She was imparting intersex wisdom that I would later learn was passed down from intersex generation to generation. How much do you think it'll cost? I asked, thinking about the $17 in my bank account. It shouldn't be too much, maybe a quarter a page, Jessica chimed in. That didn't seem too bad, but then Linnell's eyes narrowed and her forehead furrowed. She leaned in close. Now, mind you, Linnell was a leather daddy dom at this time. Very, intimidating. When Linnell tells you something, they tell you something, so they're going to tell me right now. Have you ever said that you're intersex out loud yet? Linnell asked me. Huh? I said, stunned. Have you said you're intersex? Linnell repeated, more slowly this time. No, I said suspiciously. Why would I do that? I'm a normal girl. I don't want to be a freak. You need to, she said. You need to say it. You need to say, I'm intersex. I stared at her. At this point, I was pretty sure this bitch was crazy. Go ahead, say it, Linnell said. I'm intersex, I said, my voice barely audible. Say it louder, say it prouder, she urged. I'm intersex, I said, a scant decibel louder this time. Louder! I'm intersex. Louder! I'm intersex. The volume increased each time, and I started to forget where I was, what I was risking. I'm intersex. I'm intersex. That's the end of that piece. Okay, only 2 more pages, and the last one is a duet. This one, a lot of people from DePaul will remember very fondly, the person. Chapter 9. 2 weeks after I turned 20, I kissed the girl. Ashley Vento was butch and blue-eyed with a lip ring and a thick Boston accent. Before she kissed me, I just assumed I was straight. But then Ashley Vento came into my life and swept me off my feet. Like she did a lot of us. Ashley had the cutest patch of freckles that spanned from one cheek to the other. And she always wore an expertly rolled bandana tied up as a headband in her short hair. She wore a variation of the same thing every day. Nike Dunks, jeans, a t-shirt, a studded belt, a black North Face fleece, if it was cool, out, and that bandana. The bandana held back most of her hair, but it always seemed to let a swoop of angled golden bangs fall over her eyes. She rolled her own cigarettes and smoked like a chimney. And she wore a hemp necklace adorned with a glass bead. It smelled like mildew. She was perfect. I loved how it smelled at the time. Her apartment was right across the street from Wrigley Field and right next to the Red Line tracks. It was on the top floor, and if you stuck your hand out of her bedroom window, you could almost touch the train. It was our secret nest in the middle of the city. Every time the train sped by, her bedroom floor would rumble, and the TV would become inaudible. When we were up there, the rest of the world faded away. Before she kissed me, I told myself that we were just friends. We met in a sociology class during my sophomore year. She moved from her usual seat to the seat next to mine one day. People moved around a lot, I thought to myself. No biggie. But then we started talking and got to know each other. She had an amazing smile that made her eyes light up and a loud, unapologetic cackle. She had an amazing smile that made her eyes light up and a loud and Zig's here, and unapologetic cackle. Eventually, we started hanging out after class and spending lots of time together. I made a new friend, I thought. One afternoon, before I was supposed to grab some food and study for sociology with Ashley in the student center, I took a lot of time to get ready. I showered, did my hair and makeup, stressed over what to wear before finally setting on what I hoped was a cute outfit, and then sprayed myself with perfume. My reflection in the mirror seemed to look back at me with a devilish grin. Eventually, one thing led to another, and one night we were spooning in the bottom of my bunk. Period. Then, one morning, we were making out in her bed. Immediately after she kissed me for the first time, I turned away and buried my face in her pillow. My cheeks flushed and I panicked. Oh my God, I just kissed a girl, I thought. What the fuck is happening? Are you okay? She gently asked. I took a second. Then I turned my head to face her and nodded with a smile. From that moment on, I was hooked. For the next 6 months, we never left each other's sides, which now I know is codependency. But at the time, it just felt like love, which I learned in Take Back the Halls, Healthy Relationships. We never left each other's sides. Ashley made me feel desired in a way I had never experienced before. I loved how her eyes devoured my entire being every time she looked at me. I felt completely alive in that way that you do when you are on a good roller coaster. Feeling that alive was addictive. I couldn't get enough. One afternoon, Ashley opened up and told me about her past. I used to be addicted to heroin, but I stopped right around the time I met you, she told me. I hate to say it, but learning that made me feel a weird sense of pride. That she quit when she met me, not the heroin thing. I looked down at her arms and saw for the first time that they were covered in scars. The marks looked like flesh-colored snakes sleeping on each other for warmth. She noticed me looking at them and said, "Oh yeah, and I used to cut, but I've stopped that too." The things she shared with me, which to some might have seemed like red flags, just made me fall in love with her even harder. Her vulnerability made me feel closer to her. Her past, for some messed up, probably codependent reason, made me feel safe. 2 weeks after our first kiss, we went for a walk together, in love, unable to stop looking in each other's eyes. We were gross. We eventually drifted from DePaul's campus and started walking down Fullerton Avenue toward the lake. We passed the Dominic's grocery store. Oh my God, there was a Dominic's back then. We passed the Dominic's grocery store and kept meandering towards the sixth corner intersection where Fullerton, Lincoln, and Halsted all crisscrossed. As we passed the driveway leading up to the front doors of Lurie Children's Hospital, I squeezed her hand tighter. Back in the day, Lurie's was in Lincoln Park. I squeezed her hand tighter. We finally made it to our destination, just as the moon was beginning to rise. Up ahead, the waves crashed onto the sandy shores of Lake Michigan. As the moon inched higher, we walked closer to the shore, like two baby sea turtle hatchlings about to enter the silky, dark unknown. We stood still, staring into the horizon that separated water from sky. It was almost impossible to perceive where one ended and the other began. "Tell me your story," Ashley said as we held hands in the twilight. "I want to know your life story, boo." She gave my hand a gentle squeeze. The sound of my heart palpitations was masked only by the whoosh of the waves. She had been asking me to tell her my life story for a while now, and each time she asked, I became sick with fear. That familiar lump, a glue trap lodged in my throat, rarely allowed the escape of any words. If I shared my secret with Ashley, there would be no going back. My bones were yearning to take the jump, to finally confide in someone, but my mind was screaming, "Caution, caution, red alert." The stars did their little dance in the sky as Ashley and I walked away from the edge of the water and sat down on a bench behind the bike path. My heart thumped, my head pounded, and my eyes began to well up. Ashley's nicotine-yellowed fingers caressed my hair under the cool light of a waning, gibbous moon. "Shh, it's okay, boo. I'm not going nowhere. Never. You can tell me. Whatever it is, I love you." A Chicagoan doing Boston. She wiped away a tear that had begun rolling down my cheek. "Fuck," I cried out. And then, like water from a collapsed dam, it all came pouring out. "If I tell you something, you promise you won't run away?" I sniffled. "I promise," she said. She looked like she meant it. When I was born, they thought I was a girl. But when I was 6 months old, they found out I had XY chromosomes. I couldn't believe this was happening. I was sure that I was going to screw up our relationship. At the same time, cathartic endorphins drenched my brain, and I decided to keep sharing. "When I was a baby, they took out my undescended testes," I said. "They castrated me." I am making a huge mistake, I thought. I should stop. I tried to read Ashley's face to see if she was horrified, but to my surprise, she wasn't. Her eyes were understanding and inviting. I took solace in how I read her eyes. I continued. "When I was 4, I said between choky gasps for oxygen. I cut something out because I don't want to say it. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," Ashley said as she kissed my forehead. I turned and sobbed into the soft fleece of her North Face, and then I told her the rest. They lied. They lied to me about everything. I howled at the moon. Everyone lied. I shuddered in her lap, ready for her to stand up any second and say, "Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but I gotta go. This is too much." I was ready for a look of disgust to flash across her face when she registered what she had been tricked into falling in love with. I closed my eyes, tightened every muscle in my body, and braced myself for whatever was coming next. But she didn't run away. She didn't scream in horror. Instead, she squeezed me tighter, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "If you had 3 testes and 1 boob, I'd still love you, boo." And for the first time, I hope Ashley's on the live stream. And for the first time in what felt like forever, my heart took a deep breath and exhaled. My heart took a deep breath and exhaled it all out into the Milky Way. I have a book. This is the old book, so we gotta get the right page. So go like to 202. It might be like after a little bit. This is our last page. 202. Oh shit. Just another book. Can I see that one? Yeah, that's the new one, I think. Does anyone have a copy, like a new copy? Here we go. Yeah, okay. So at this part, we've jumped ahead, and I I have co-founded this organization called Intersex Justice Project, which so many people in this room, thank you so much, have showed up to and helped us put pressure on Lurie to end the surgeries. So this is a few years after we started Intersex Justice Project and the campaign called End Intersex Surgery. And it was kind of at a standstill. There wasn't much happening at this point. I was getting burnt out from the campaign work. It was literally taking this huge toll on my mental health, my body, everything. At this point, I had a migraine, one of many migraines. Oh, hi, Perla. I was literally in bed naked and like with the blinds closed because I had a migraine. And somebody DM'd me and said, oh my God, I just saw Lurie Children's Hospital has this page about their, so Lurie, by the way, has a center for gender and just gender, whatever. And they see kids that are trans there, and they're celebrated for this. They're celebrated for like, oh, they help trans kids out, da 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 da. It's a great thing what they do. But no one knows that the other side of that clinic is where the intersex kids go. And so that other side of the clinic is where kids like me, they're forced to undergo things against their will, and they don't have autonomy to make decisions about themselves. And so they have this PR campaign about the trans clinic, and one day, somebody sends me a DM and says, look what they're doing. So they were posting all these trans celebrities and people in the media to say, like, look how cool we are. Like, we are down with trans people or whatever. And someone goes, look at this. So at the time, I'm friends with India. And India was on a show at the time called Pose. And they had posted India on their page with all of India's Pose castmates. And I'm naked as fuck, migraine as fuck, and I'm looking at, your eyes hurt when you look at your phone, but you still can't stop. You're like looking with one eye. And I'm like, these motherfuckers got my friend on their page promoting their bullshit. So I text India and I call India, and then this is the conversation that happens. So we're gonna start at, after I found out at the bottom of 202. After I found out the Instagram page of Lurie's Gender Development Clinic, After I found the Instagram page of Lurie's Gender Development Clinic, I immediately FaceTimed India. They had their phone on a city bike, phone mount, and were riding through the city with a helmet on.
Hey, Pagana. What's your tea, girl?
India, I just found out Lurie's Gender Clinic, the one that sees trans and intersex kids, has an Instagram page. And on it, they posted all these pictures of trans celebrities, including you.
Bitch, what?
Yeah. Yes, bitch.
Bitch.
Their brows were sparring with one another.
Oh, hell no. Nope. Send it to me.
I know, girl.
Say less.
They're using all of your images to paint a rosy picture of the trans portion of their clinic. Oh, you read that, sorry. While conveniently glossing over the intersex portion. Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no. Nope. Send it to me right now.
Say less.
Wait, bitch, are you naked?
Yes, girl, I have a headache and I was trying to sleep it off, but then I saw this. I really hadn't had time to get decent before I called her. We said our goodbyes. A few minutes later, India went live on their personal Instagram page. Their broadcast was titled, you could say it.
In solidarity with intersex communities. First of all.
In the live, they talked about IJP's campaign to end intersex surgeries at Lurie. They mentioned, what did you mention? How furious they were that Lurie's page was using their image. I watched in awe.
You want to lift up trans people by stepping on the necks of intersex people?
They asked defiantly. India explained to their millions of followers what intersexuality is and the injustices we have been forced to endure at places like Lurie. Then, toward the end of their broadcast, they asked their viewers to join them in commenting on Lurie's pages.
All 1,421,030 people of you, tell them we demand they end intersex surgeries now.
Within minutes, Lurie's Instagram page was flooded with comments from all over the world. The onslaught continued for weeks. IJP's campaign went viral. Lurie couldn't post anything new without hundreds of people commenting #end intersex surgery within hours. Lurie, for once, had lost the upper hand. Other trans celebrities like Angelica Ross and Hunter Schafer responded to India's call for support and demanded the clinic end the unnecessary intersex surgeries on kids. Thank you. Thank you, boo. Thank you all.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you all so much. This was a lot, I know. Thank you so much. Give it up for India.
That was
everybody.
fantastic. Thank you, Pidgeon,
Thank
for
you.
reading that. So now we will get into the Q&A portion of this. I have some questions for you that I'd love to ask and hear your thoughts on. But I guess first you want to start off by telling us what inspired you to write this book? Why now? You've been sharing your story for years and your activism, but what inspired you to finally put it in book form?
Honestly, in college, in grad school, I was thinking about writing a book because my mentor at the time, another beloved DePaul person, Dr. Irene Beck, suggested I write a book as my thesis project, like my story down. And there was another professor named Michelle Morano who gave me a book called Girl Interrupted. Has anyone seen the movie with Angelina Jolie? Yeah, you're all gay. And so I loved that movie, but I didn't know it was a book. And the book, each page starts out with a page of her medical records from her time in the mental institution. And then the chapter preceding is her subjective experience in that mental institution. So first you see this objective narrative about her experience, like the doctor's notes saying, patient did this, and then we subdued them with this much medicine. And that's usually all people find out about people like patients who are in hospitals, is what the doctors say. But she wrote her story out, which then became a movie. And so Michelle inspired me with that book to try to do my story the same way. And in DePaul, where I went, I was a women and gender studies major twice. I went there for undergrad and graduate school. And we learned a lot about the feminist value of your own lived experience and sharing your personal story to combat the dominant narratives in society that are usually held up higher, especially if they're seen as objective truth, which is in the fields usually, the domains usually of rational science, like the hard, quote unquote, the hard sciences, you know, like, and so people's lived experiences, like say mine at the time, talking about what happened to me would not hold as much value. So I wanted to do something about that. And so I tried to write my story down for the first time back when I was 27, and I'm 26, and I'm 37 now. And as a person that was struggling a lot with what's known as your Saturn return, is that what it's called when you're 27? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, you know, if you're gay, it really, it's a lot. When you, only the gays it affects, I don't know why. But when you're 27, like your life just, it just gets up, exactly. This girl's 27 right here. So I was going through it. Like, I was in grad school. We thought I had bed bugs at the time. I was not even allowed in Beth's office, but I had hives, I found out, from stress. Like, I had a bed bug man come to my room and was like, you have no bed bugs. I literally just had so much stress at the time that I was breaking out of hives all the time. I thought I was gluten allergic. No, I just had gas because stress makes me gassy, I found out. And So I'm trying to sit down and write my story too. And it was just, I couldn't sit still. I also discovered I had ADHD at the time, and it was the first time I was learning about that. And my story quickly, I started writing it out, and it quickly evolved into my first film, where I started to read what I wrote down into like a microphone, and it became like a radio piece, which became a film called The Son I Never Had. And so 10 years later, no, maybe 8 years later, during the pandemic, I'm a public speaker on intersex, and I lost all of my speaking engagements when the pandemic really first hit in the summer of 2020. I lost all my contracts, everything just disappeared. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like there goes, I don't know how to make money, like what am I gonna do? And luckily, a few years before, I met someone named Joey Soloway, who is a director, and a trans director, and they are from Chicago. Has anyone seen the show Transparent on Amazon Prime? So I met them in line at something years before, and we connected because we're both from Chicago. And they have this book imprint now, publishing imprint called Topo. And they call me in the summer of 2020, and they're like, I'm starting a new book thing, a book publishing imprint called Topo. We're doing stories on gender, sexuality, etc., trans, intersex. Would you like to write your story? And I hate writing. Any of my professors will tell you, I am the queen and the king of saying, I need an extension. I got bed bugs, I need an extension. I got gas, I need an extension. Like, all I did was ask for extensions in school. And I was just so bad at writing. And what was I saying about DePaul and the writing and the gas and
What inspired you? Why now?
But why was I saying right now? Oh, the director. So she hits me up and I say, okay, because I'm broke. I hate writing. I never thought I could sit down and write a book. But when you're broke and you have no other options really, and she said there was an advance, like a check coming if I wrote a book, I said yes. Like, let's write this book. And somebody I have to give a lot of thanks to is my a developmental editor named Kenny Papora. They paid for me to have a developmental editor sit with me side by side, well, on virtual. And they helped me say, like, okay, this is the scene you're gonna write this week. You're gonna write this chapter next week. And I would be accountable to him. And he would help me shape my words and my ideas and my book. And he was queer as well and wrote his own memoir in the past. And when I read it on audiobook or listened to it, I was like, I put all my faith and trust into him and my editor. And so they gave me a wonderful, beautiful team to work with. And they became like therapists to me as well. And that is why I wrote the book. But I said in an interview earlier this week, I think also I was always gonna write a book. You kind of can't really live this life without documenting. Oh, I can't live it without documenting it. And people have always kind of asked me, when are you gonna write your book? And I was like, when I get a 6-figure deal. And I didn't even know what 6-figure meant at the time. It was like a lot of money. But I didn't get a 6-figure deal. But I still wrote a book, and that's why, because I needed the money. And also, and because honestly, like, and I'll get into this later probably, but I'm done telling my story. Mm-hmm. I've told my story for like so long that this book is now a way to be like, my story is in there, my individual story, so it's done. Like, you can read it, it's everywhere. It's on YouTube, etc. It's in films. But it's a way to let me close this chapter on my life. And yeah, and move on.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen you post. It's time for some intersex joy and to water those aspects of your life. So I totally get that. We got a really good question from one of our YouTube viewers. Hi, YouTube. They asked, let me just make sure I get this right. I'd hate to butcher it.
Oh, by the way, Jake interviewed me like a long time ago for the End Intersex Surgery campaign. And I just want to say thank you for all the work you've done for us as well as a Chicago reporter.
It's just you. I just amplify.
And Jake started, what's it called? The LGBTQ?
Yeah, Proud City.
Proud City at Block Club, which is, the shirts are over there being sold.
Sign up for the newsletter.
What is it, the new queer beat?
Yeah, it's like an
Club?
LGBTQ vertical. It's our designated section. It has its own homepage. It's really pretty, so check it out.
And they're up for an award. for Lion Con.
Yeah, we're up for a community engagement award, which is really cool. So,
Big award.
yeah. I'm going to ask one or two more questions, and we're going to
Okay.
open it to the floor. This one, like I said, is from YouTube. How will the world look when intersex people have total bodily autonomy?
It will look so fucking beautiful. It will be so amazing. Like, the world when intersex people have total bodily autonomy to choose what they, how they live and how they love and how they express themselves means everyone else gets that too, trans people, etc. And that'll mean for the first time the words liberty, justice, and freedom actually mean something in this country for one of the first times. And like, just imagine when we think we're free, but then we're not. And so imagine how the world would feel when actually people are actually free to just be. Like, intersex people are the representation of all that humanity is. Like, humanity, there is no way that humanity just comes in two shapes and sizes, like man and woman. That's just not true. Intersex people have been around since the beginning of time. Intersex shows up in all of nature, in all of the species, and all of humans. And so when intersex people actually get to be free, that means that everyone gets to be free. And I think that would just be the most liberating, beautiful, amazing world ever. Like, yeah. Like, it's just a vibe. Like, when you're in a room and everyone's feeling good, you feel good.
Like here.
So, yeah, if you're in the world and everyone's feeling good, or you're in a society, everyone's feeling good, everyone's free and everything, it's just a great vibe. And that's what it's gonna be like.
Definitely. And then my last question, kind of piggybacking off the topic of bodily autonomy. You and India Moore, you read this passage about how they really came and amplified your cause. One thing you go into in the book is how, as pressure was mounting against Lurie, there is a doctor, Dr. Ellie Kim. They moved to New York. But they were a doctor at Lurie, and I think the first employee there to publicly denounce the surgeries they were performing on intersex kids. How has solidarity between the intersex and trans communities played a role in this movement, and why is that solidarity so important?
So, since the first protest that happened in 1996 in Boston at the American Academy of Pediatrics on October 26th, which is why we mark that day as Intersex Awareness Day, that protest was with intersex activists and trans activists. So the whole history of intersex activism has always been interwoven with trans activism and trans people. And now fast forward to today, the past few years, we have over 800 bills in state legislatures and federal legislatures that are trying to ban access to gender-affirming care for trans people. These are what's broadly known as anti-trans bills in the media. But in over 81% of those bills, there are specific carve-outs that say, but the surgeries still need to happen to those kids that are intersex. So these bills that are being called anti-trans should also, please tell your friends, should also be called anti-intersex or intersex-phobic bills as well, because this is the first time in history that intersex phobia has ever been written into legislation. All that they've done to us has started in the 1950s, has never been written into law. It's always been done in the behind closed doors at hospitals. But now, because the right wing and the Christian evangelicals who are trying to rally their base after losing gay marriage, and they're now using trans people as targets to just get votes. They're just using hatred to get votes. They're sweeping in intersex people into that legislation. So that is why intersex and trans people, solidarity between us is so important. And that is why solidarity between cis people, people who are not trans, with trans people is super important, because you're also then in solidarity with intersex people. And so, yeah, it's just, and also, I forget to mention sometimes, a lot of intersex people, just like anybody, can be trans as well. So like the co-founder of IJP is trans as well. I'm non-binary, which I consider under the trans umbrella. So a lot of intersex people are also trans. But even if that wasn't the case, both of us, trans and intersex people, are fighting for basic bodily autonomy. Trans people are fighting for surgeries that they consent to. They're fighting for hormones that they consent to and need and want. And as young adults, and then intersex people, those same surgeries that were developed on our bodies in the 1940s and 50s by a guy named Dr. John Money, They're being forced on us without our consent and without allowing us the bodily autonomy. They're the same surgeries and the same pills and the same procedures. But one group of people they're being forced on at an early age, and they're even being written into the 81% of the bills that this should still happen to intersex kids. And then the other group of people who are consenting, who are wanting who need these things, they're trying not to allow them. So it's one of the reasons why we need to come together.
Thank you. And now I would love to take the next few minutes to open up to the audience. Does anyone have questions? I'll come over and bring the mic so the YouTube feed can hear it.
I didn't know you were going to mic. Hi, you're amazing.
Hi, thank you. So are you.
I wanted to ask you, you said you want to close this chapter on your life. What's your new chapter? What are you looking forward to doing? And I don't know, I mean, you're clearly going to go far. I imagine you'll still be a public speaker and everything, but.
I hope so. Honestly, my bookings have dried up in the last year. It's been really hard out there for a lot of people doing this work, with the backlash from a lot of people that were hiring us. Now there's a lot of people just not hiring us anymore. They're scared of the backlash from the right and stuff. But I hope to continue now with the book out. I hope to continue being a public speaker because I love connecting with people in this way. But I don't want to talk about my story. I used to avoid telling my story by showing my film, and then I would walk out of the room and put AirPods in and time it. I knew my film is 14 minutes, 50, I know the time. I'd come back in, take my AirPods out. But I want to get away from all that and try to figure out I was going to step away, to be honest. The past year or two, I was I'm done, especially writing this book. It almost killed me, and that's not a lie. And I figured, I need to get out of this world. I need to, just do something completely different. I walked down to the coffee shop on Division called Atmos, and I was like, will you hire me? Because I used to work at a coffee shop, and I miss just doing something that has nothing to do with, my trauma or intersex. But then I realized one day in ketamine therapy, which is one of the ways that I've been working on my healing journey, I go to Rush Hospital, and they have ketamine now. It's approved by the FDA for the past 2 years. And during one of those ketamine sessions, which is it's a, what's it called, India? It's psychedelic and anesthetic, or it's dissociative. So it's one of those medications that's now being used to treat people with treatment-resistant depression and PTSD. And so one day I was on my ketamine session, and I realized I don't want to step away from this work, but I want to. I got to figure out a way to do it in a different way, in a different capacity that's centered around joy and around positivity and around people doing wins, like intersex organizations having successes, or intersex people having successes, or joy, or love, or whatever it is. So I have to figure out how do I become a pedestal for that type of stuff, because for so long I focused on ending the surgeries and also my story, sharing that story as a tool. But I realized that even if I'm focused on ending the surgeries, the surgeons that did the stuff they did to me, and they did the stuff to other intersex people, are still kind of dictating how I move through the world in a way, because I'm trying to fight what they're doing. So they're kind of still in my life too much. So I'm trying to figure out, and I have no idea really, I have glimpses, but all I know is that I need to figure out what on the inside is going to make me feel genuinely happy and purely excited and purely devoted to what I'm going to do in the next chapter. It has to come from this center point that has nothing, center place that has nothing to do with what I think the world wants of me or what I think some entity needs from me. It has to actually be this chapter, because what it used to be, it was I want to do this for other people, I want to do this for other people, but who came after me? Because who came after me in terms of intersex people, I was doing it for them. I wanted to end the surgeries for them. But what I realized on ketamine recently is this whole time I was trying to end surgeries for the future generation, what I was actually trying to do in this weird way that actually wasn't possible was go back in time and prevent the surgeries from happening to me. And what I realized is I'm gonna always set myself up for this sense of despair because I could never go back and protect that kid from what had from what happened to them. But what I've also realized in ketamine, and every time I do an interview lately, I sound like an ad for ketamine, which I am, but I also realized, and my friends know, it's like all I talk about, I also realized that there is a way I can go back and sort of love. What I realized is I just want to love that kid so bad. So in one of my sessions, which is hilarious, that I'm in a clinical setting getting ketamine, and I'm in a setting that looks like a hospital room with doctors around me, and I'm on ketamine, which is the exact drug they give you before you get surgery sometimes. You get ketamine and anesthesia. So I'm in a room trying to heal the trauma that was done to me in a hospital setting while I was under ketamine. So it became really full circle for me. And what I realized is that the only thing I could do is I can't go back and prevent the surgeries, but I can try to love that kid in the past and protect them by taking care of the present me, because inside the present me is still the child me that never is still here. And so how do I take care of the present me? I look to the future me and say, what does the future me need? And as I can make decisions today to take care of the future me, then I'm actually going back and also loving on the past me. So that's all I could really do moving forward. And I have to figure out how to also work that into some type of like work as well, or job. So yeah, I don't know yet.
All right, and we have time for one more question. I want to make sure you all have time to meet Pidgeon, get your book signed, and get dessert. India, yes.
I think we have one more question after India. We have the room till 9:30. Bye, Matt. Love you. Love you. Bye. Thank you so much.
I love you too. I wanted to connect and add to what you said about the government depriving trans people of surgeries and medical care, and forcing and mutilating intersex youth and children and kids by forcing them to have these surgeries and hormones. And I really appreciate so much that you bring that up for people to think about. And like, I think I think like there needs to, I would love to see more of this dialogue between trans and intersex people happening more publicly, especially with all of the bills that are being passed around and the propaganda that people like Governor Ron DeSantis is spreading. There's something that he and his supporters, as well as people like Trump and Donald Trump, who was indicted
For the
so many
70th
times
time last night, yeah.
Criminal. Abolish jails, but like, let's wait till. It's really interesting to me because intersex, they're saying like, they're saying that trans youth are being forced to have surgeries and are being forced to take hormones, trans youth. And they're like, children are being forced to have surgeries, and children are being forced to take hormones. And like, this is a narrative that children are experiencing, that they're saying children are experiencing. And it's true for intersex kids.
Exactly.
And it's really, really interesting to me that, like, that's not being said. Who are the kids that this is happening to? Because it is happening, but it's happening to intersex youth, not just in Florida, but like all over the world. And they're saying that that's happening to trans youth, like they're being forced to have these surgeries and they're being forced to take hormones. And like, non-trans people are having these conversations out in public on the media and saying that, and it's just not true. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate you. And I also wanted to ask, what is it that, what is it that you hope for people to reflect on in their own lives and experiences with their own bodies, who may not be intersex, who may not be trans, but like, what do you want the average reader to reflect on with their own lives and bodies after reading your story?
Thank you, India. Yeah, and I want to just say the first part is that I think it gets muddy for me to speak about what I spoke about and what India was just touching on, because, and Matt just left, but I said this in an interview with Matt on NBC Chicago, is that there's such a slippery slope to be an intersex activist right now in this climate and say, we want to ban surgeries on intersex kids, right? Because if we did legislate that, the other side could take that legislation and say, well, there's precedent set, so we're going to do that against trans kids now. But I need to...
Like, they're doing that anyways, you know what I mean? And I think, like, it's like, I think that, sorry. I like, as a trans person, I'm saying, like, those issues are together and separate, I think, in my opinion. And I think, like, this is something that they're already trying to do with or without
They're doing it already.
protecting, exactly,
Yeah.
intersex people. And so I think, like, I feel like that there's this conversation that people have about not waiting for equality and not waiting for freedom and justice and liberation, because, you know, a lot of oppressed, marginalized groups have this conversation about who's gonna get free first, right? And so, like, a lot of that conversation is being deconstructed in intersectional movement. And so I think, like, I hear what you're saying. I also feel like we shouldn't wait for an opportune time to, like, stop and ban and end intersex surgeries.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
No,
What is it?
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say that, like, what we need to be clear about, though, is that intersex activists are never against surgeries or hormones. We're only against when it's non-consensual. So what we have to fight together for is consent. And not the fake consent I was at the hospital recently with my cousin's mother. Remember that day? What's it called? The anesthesiologist comes in with bad news. The other person comes in giving her something in her chest. The other person's doing something, and he's going, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, but what I say you should do is this, so what do you think? And she's sitting there, literally, someone's putting a stent in her chest, someone's checking her heart, cardiogram, and the anesthesiologist is telling her horrible news and saying, this is probably what you should do, though, giving her no other options. And I'm sitting there knowing, because I've done years of this research, that is not what informed consent is. That is, what's the word when you compel consent? Like, coerced consent. That is so often what happens in the doctor's rooms, is they treat you like you're not the expert of your own body, that you're not in control of your body and your fate, and that they know everything, they're the Oz behind the curtain, and leave it to them because they're the experts on your lived experience. And so they told her whatever. Even I at the time was like, just do it. We don't know what the other options are. We need a stronger dialogue, or a bigger conversation around what actually is informed consent. And just like when it comes to sexual assault, where, like, consent is ongoing, it's not just like once and done. I gave it to you once, like a week ago, now you know, it's a continual conversation. It's the same thing that goes on with the patient-doctor relationship. And so we need to, what we can come together on is, how do we fight for informed consent? So then if there is informed consent, then trans people are able to give their informed consent and it's respected. And then when intersex people can't give their informed consent, it's respected. And then bodily autonomy comes out of that naturally. Not naturally, but it's fought for, or it happens. And so I think that's what I was gonna say. And what I want people who are intersex or not to think about, trans or not to think about, is where does shame live in your body? Because my book, whether you're intersex or not, is going to relate to everybody, because it's a story of how shame affects you. What the doctors do to us uses 3 things: surgery, secrecy, and shame. And the surgery is horrible. Everyone knows that. Like, you could just look at it and be like, this is horrible. This should not happen to people. But shame is invisible. It's so much harder to see how shame operates in people. And to me, it's been one of the hardest things to actually navigate. And again, plug for ketamine. Was it just ketamine though? Yes. There is, ketamine should sponsor me. Exactly. My next book is My Ketamine Journey by Pidgeon Pagonis. But not just ketamine, but there's other things out there like psychedelics that have allowed me to actually stretch in a way or cry in a way where I actually feel the shame and stuff and trauma that was like, that's been so caked up and held in my muscles and my body, release for the first time. So if you are a person that's intersex or not, trans or not, I want you to think about how shame, how you carry shame in your muscles and in your body and in your heart and in your gait and in your walk and your talk and everything, how you sleep, how you hold yourself, and what are you doing to release that? Because that also is when the world is going to feel a little bit lighter, when the colors are going to get a little bit brighter, is when everyone can release some of the shame that we all are forced to live with in this society. That's how they sell things to us, is they make us ashamed of who we are and then say you could buy this to feel better. And so I think that's what I want people to walk away with, is like me and my friends that I'm blessed to have in my life, like we're all constantly trying to heal and be on that journey. So I want everyone to be on that journey of how are you working on releasing shame and healing in your own way, in your own life. And how are you helping other people heal? And one of the best ways to do that is just to tell them you fucking love them no matter what and actually mean it. When they fuck up, you still be there for them. When they fuck up, you're still letting them know, like, I love you no matter what, bitch, I got you. Like I tell my cousin every day, and why my cousin tells me every day. Like, when you actually have a genuine fucking love in your life and it's in your corner and you know it's there, then you can actually get a little bit freer. And shame can actually start releasing. And you can actually start to feel like, oh shit, like I could be a human being and like people are still gonna love me in all of my humanness, whether it's, perfect or not. So that's that.
Thank you. Okay. And I lied. We have time for a couple more questions. Does anyone have any? If not, I have others I can ask. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Yasi.
I guess my question is kind of, and I think like you've alluded to that, there has been wins and like getting specific hospitals to end non-consensual practices, but also like we're talking about really significant losses. And I guess my question is, how do you keep hope? Because I feel like, and we've talked about this, but like I tend towards a certain amount of like nihilism where I'm like, what's the effing point? Like what's the point of even trying? What's the point of, even going so far as to say, what's the point of even writing your own story if it's not gonna, so I guess, and I don't like thinking like that, and I think you're an inspiration in some ways because you're able to hold both the wins and the losses and still see a path forward. So I'm asking, I guess, what does keep you moving forward in times when it feels like things are sometimes pointless?
Well, I want to say you're an amazing writer, and every time I get your little writing thing in my email, I think it's Substack or something, like it is jaw-droppingly gorgeous writing, so please subscribe to Yassi's Substack. What's it called?
What's it called?
I'll share it later.
I don't remember. I'll send it to
Okay,
you.
I'll share it on my Instagram. Yassi's an amazing writer. I think, okay, look. Ever since I was a kid, I've been hopeful. I've been almost like an optimist. And so luckily I still have a little bit of that in me. I think hope, my therapist taught me, is a place where you can get hurt a lot. Because there's a space where there's that space between like what you hope for and what's the present. And it can like keep you living in in that hope, that future. And that space between can be really hurtful and hard. So it's easy to be nihilist sometimes because it's so hard to be hopeful. But I realized, again in ketamine, I was sitting there one day and I swear this sounded so profound to me. I even like Googled it to see if anyone else had it on Instagram. Was the words be nice came up to me. And I was like, remember last night? I was like, nice is the nicest word, first of all. I was like, that word is beautiful. And then second of all, I was like, whoa, that cheesy ass thing that I heard about as a kid, like wearing, pins and shirts, just be nice, be nice, be nice, be nice. You say it as a kid, or you say it to your kids, your puppies, be nice, be nice. And what do babies say? Nice, nice. They learn that when they're petting something nice. And I was like, you know what? I can't stop Earl Chang from what he did, I can't stop the doctors from doing what they did to me. I can't stop the current doctors from doing what they're doing. And by the way, you talked about wins and a lot of losses. Lurie Children's Hospital, I had a win there with IJP. Yes, we had a win. Found out recently, they're still doing surgeries.
We'll be talking about that.
And they do this thing with, what's that game with the shell game? They took clitorectomy surgeries and moved them over here, and now they're doing more vaginoplasty surgeries, more vagina surgeries. They've taken the words, oh, this child has CAH and is intersex, and replaced that with, this child has CAH and is a female with a birth defect. So now that the intersex surgeries we stopped, yeah, but now we're doing birth defect surgeries on these females who are defective. These are the same kids that 5 years ago, the same doctors like Earl Chang were writing about in journals saying they're intersex. They hold all the power when it comes to the linguistics, when it comes to decisions behind the operating room walls. So if I'm gonna continue to do these campaigns against surgeries, all I'm gonna do is keep running up against that. So all I can really do is actually be nice to myself, to other people, and to even people like Earl Chang. Because if I'm not nice to myself or to other people, they keep winning every single day. Because they've taken something out of me that I know I've always had since I was a kid, which people have always been like, shut up, stop talking to strangers. Like, I like everybody. I talk to everybody, and I've always gotten along with a lot of people. But I've noticed myself getting more and more closed off in the past 5 years. And I finally one day woke up a few years ago, I'm like, that's not me. So one of the only ways I could keep being hopeful, I guess, is to just remember who I am. And who I am is optimistic, who I am is hopeful, and who I am is a nice person. And I've always been good at being nice to other people, but I've never been nice to myself. I've never been able to say or even hear nice things about myself. And so what I can do, I guess, moving forward is just try to actually be nice to myself. And that's literally all I have control over, I've realized. And that's all I can really do, because I can't do anything. I can't change other people.
Thank you for that question. And I have one more from the YouTube feed. How can people be allies to the intersex community?
You could be nice to us. You can buy us ketamine. No, literally, me and my friend India sometimes talk about wanting to start an organization that helps intersex and trans people get access to psychedelic medicine and ketamine legally. But you can, honestly, I like to say that you can just each one teach one. I didn't come up with that, obviously. That's a thing that goes back to the Black Panthers and other people as well. But I think that's the best thing to tell people, because it's something that everybody can do, whether you have money or not, whether you have time or not, is you can tell people the stories of intersex people and what has happened to us over the generations since the 50s. You can go to my website, there's a resources section, it's in the back of my book too. You can watch documentaries to learn more if you're a film type learner. You can read books. There's another documentary coming out next month by my friend Alicia. Another memoir, called Inverse Cowgirl. There's other documentaries that already exist. Autobiographies, memoirs. There's my film, and there's so many films like Intersections. Watch films, read books. Just each one teach one. And then support organizations like Interconnect, who are raising money for tonight. So if you haven't yet, please consider donating, or buy a book, buy a t-shirt, buy pins, because I'm gonna give a percentage to them as well. And give money to groups like Interact, which is the only intersex organization in the country fighting for intersex legal rights and human rights. I think those are the main ways that you can help. And if you have a child who's intersex, if you have a child who's trans, if you have a child, period, center bodily autonomy and freedom for them as they grow up. And not just your children, not just your children, but every child in your community, every child in your life, every child at your child's school. Stand up for those kids that are trans, that are intersex, that are gender nonconforming. You gotta use your privilege as an ally or whatever to support those kids as well, whether they're intersex or not, because that creates an environment where everyone is. Interact is one of the organizations. Interact advocates, and then Interconnect is who we're raising money for tonight. Interconnect.support is their website. We have a QR code everywhere tonight, and it's on Black Club's website, I think, and it'll be on my Instagram, I think. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Of course.
We're good, right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, give it up for Pidgeon.
Oh, and give it up. And I want to say thank you to Amanda, DJ Flores Negras on the ones and twos is going to be spinning music for us tonight. Thank you to everybody for making this possible. Thank you to my neighbors who are here. I see you in the back. I love y'all, Tony and Perla. Thank you to Amy and Jaya and Zaid and Sherwin and Jesus and Amanda and Ladybug. My neighbors are here. To Kara, to Wissam, to Zig, to India, to my cousins. I literally had to Gavi, to Blanca, to my Kana Asada. I literally had friends surrounding me last night, throughout the whole day, last night, coming to me from out of state, just sitting with me, being next to me as I slept, being with me today, making sure that today happened. And I'm so grateful for that. And thank you to Sarah G, who's here, who took pictures of all of our protests throughout all of the years. If you go on Flickr and search End Intersex Surgery, there's a whole catalog because of the people's photographer who's here tonight, Love and Struggle Photos. Thank you to Cadence. Thank you to Rick Wilson, who would come to our protest and lead chants for us and record live streams for me. And thank you to Adam for all you did to the movement, and thank you to Zach for all. Zach built like all of our websites for the goddamn movement, and like every time, Zach, I need a website for this. I need a website for this. We need a website right now. Zach would come through, never ask for $1. Like everybody in this room has all my professors, like also my therapist, also my family, basically. Thank you to the space again, Honeycomb Collective, and your beautiful family who are here tonight. Thank you to Chicago. Give it up to the motherfucking best city in this whole fucking country. Thank you so much. I love Chicago. I love you. I see you, I see you, Bobby. My stepdad is here, my teachers. I love you all. Thank you so much. If I forgot, my cousins are right here. Thank you. Would come to the hospital when I was fucking healing from the surgeries. I remember you bringing me new kids on the block dials and shit because I love Jordan so much. Like, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being part of my journey, and have a great, wonderful evening. I love you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll be behind this table.
Yes.
I already signed every book for time's sake, so if you buy one, it's signed. But if you would like to say hello, I'll be behind the table. I don't really want to hug anybody. I'm so sorry. But I will be behind the table ready to say hello to you. I love you. Thank you very much.
And you can buy the merch over there. And we have dessert.
And I have merch and dessert. Please get dessert. And shout out to Irazu, the best Costa Rican restaurant in Chicago. There's free food, free booze, free alcohol. Thank you so much.